The Trump administration announced earlier this month that it will cut off cost-sharing reduction payments. Copyright 2017 The Associated Press. All rights reserved. A U.S. judge ruled Wednesday that the government does not have to immediately resume paying Obamacare health care subsidies that President Donald Trump cut off. 18 state attorneys general, led by California Democrat Xavier Becerra, argued the monthly payments are required under former President Barack Obama's health care law and cutting them off will harm consumers. U.S. District Judge Vince Chhabria in San Francisco said the Trump administration had the stronger legal argument and the emergency relief sought by the states would be counterproductive since they had devised workarounds to the lost subsidies that give millions of lower-income people better health care options. The states had asked him to force the government to keep making the payments while the case works its way through the courts, which will take months. The Trump administration had announced earlier this month that it will cut off cost-sharing reduction payments, which aim to reduce out-of-pocket costs for lower-income people. Trump has said Obama's law is imploding and has criticized the subsidies as insurance company bailouts. The White House says the government cannot legally continue paying the subsidies because there is no formal authorization from Congress. Chhabria, an Obama appointee, said at a hearing Monday that California and other states had protected consumers from the loss of the funding so people didn't face an immediate threat of higher insurance costs. The states limited the plans for which insurers could hike premiums to make up for the lost subsidies and ensured that many people will get more tax credits for their health insurance purchases, the judge said. Chhabria peppered an attorney for California with questions about why he should force the administration to resume payments when the states had devised a workaround that would benefit many consumers. The state of California is standing on the courthouse steps denouncing the president for taking away people's health care, when the truth is that California has come up with a solution to that issue that is going to result in better health care for a lot of people, Chhabria said. Gregory Brown, who represented California at the hearing, said the loss of the subsidies was creating uncertainty and chaos that could lead insurance companies to opt out of the health law. The administration had been making the monthly payments even as Trump threatened to cut them off to force Democrats to negotiate over health care. A bipartisan effort in Congress to restore the payments has run into opposition. The payments reimburse insurers for the costs of lowering copays and deductibles, which they are required to do for low-income customers who buy coverage through the healthcare marketplaces created by Obama's law. The states argue that the Trump administration violated a law requiring government agencies to obey existing statutes and follow orderly and transparent procedures. Democratic attorneys general have pushed back against Trump's agenda in the federal courts, looking to block the president's attempts to roll back Obama's policies on the environment, healthcare, and immigration. The states joining California in the lawsuit are Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Iowa, Kentucky, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington, along with the District of Columbia. The Arizona Republican senator will not seek re-election and the Tennessee lawmaker admitted he regrets backing the president in the first place. John Roberts has the roundup for Special Report. The two Republican senators who have cited frustration with Donald Trump's presidency as reason for their retirement also were grappling with weak poll numbers, spurring questions about whether more Trump critics might face pressure to call it quits. Arizona Senator Jeff Flake announced Tuesday that he wouldn't seek a second term in a lofty Senate floor speech in which the senator said he'd no longer be complicit or silent about Trump's perceived offenses. Flake followed with a Washington Post op-ed Wednesday in which he said, 9 months of this administration is enough for us to stop pretending that this is somehow normal. But his poll numbers for a 2018 re-election already were underwater. Just 37% of Arizona Republican voters approved of Flake's job performance and 50% disapproved, according to a recent Morning Consult poll. He was going to lose, and he was going to lose big, Constantin Corard, a GOP consultant in Arizona, told Fox News on Wednesday. Flake's fallout with Trump started even before the president took office, when he withheld his endorsement because Trump insulted Vietnam veteran and Arizona senior GOP Senator John McCain. Then came his anti-Trump book this summer, Conscience of a Conservative. He wrote a book about me before I ever heard of him, Trump told reporters Wednesday. The first time I saw him on TV, I assumed he was a Democrat. His poll numbers are terrible. He's done terribly for the great people of Arizona, a state that likes Trump. Flack's relationship with Arizona voters began to deteriorate soon after he went from the House to the Senate and became a member of the chamber's bipartisan, so-called Gang of Eight that pushed for comprehensive immigration reform. In a border state like Arizona, if your single issue is amnesty, you should expect to have problems with your base, Sherrod also said. His problems with Arizona voters predate Trump the candidate. But the sparring with Trump might not have helped either. Everything is in place to get me to Washington and drain the swamp, Kelly Ward, a Republican candidate for Flack's seat who is backed by Trump ally Steve Bannon, told Fox News Outnumbered on Wednesday. Corker's relationship with Trump, compared with Flack's, seemed to unravel more recently in August, when the two-term senator questioned the president's competence and leadership after the deadly protests in Charlottesville, Virginia, where a woman was fatally struck by a car allegedly driven by a white supremacist. Corker announced in September he would not seek re-election. Polls for the Tennessee Star in June showed just 41% of likely GOP primary voters said Corker deserved re-election. In their still escalating war of words, fought largely on Twitter, Corker suggested Trump got a hold of a cell phone and started tweeting insults at him because the daycare staff member was off duty. Trump called Corker Little Bob and taunted that he couldn't get elected dog catcher. Senate Republicans' failure this summer to repeal and replace Obamacare has put such GOP incumbent senators as Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Dean Heller, of Nevada, on Trump's radar. Endangered Heller got a taste of what running for re-election in 2018 would be like when he said in June that he couldn't support Senate Republicans' Obamacare replacement bill. A Trump-aligned super PAC, America First Policies, promptly announced an anti-Heller ad campaign. And while Heller was sitting next to Trump at a White House event, the president said about him, "He wants to remain a senator, doesn't he?" Trump has been easier on Murkowski and fellow GOP Senator Susan Collins, of Maine, in trying to get their votes for ending Obamacare and giving him his first big legislative win. Alaska had a 200% plus increase in premiums under Obamacare, worst in the country. Deductibles high, people angry. Lisa M. comes through, Trump tweeted in September about Murkowski. Collins is far more comfortable in Maine than Flake is in Arizona. Maine voters picked Democrat Hillary Clinton over Trump in 2016. And Collins, 2 years earlier, won a fourth term with more than 68% of the vote. Neither of them really depend on Trump voters, David Payne, president of the Code of Eight public affairs firm, said Wednesday. Collins is completely insulated. For now, Collins is staying put, having announced earlier this month that she will not run for governor. The pressures on moderate senators, however, could create future problems for the Trump agenda. Despite the Flake-Trump feud, Flake voted for the Trump agenda roughly 90% of the time. Republicans will be under heavy pressure to prevent the seat from flipping next fall. After conservative Judge Roy Moore won Alabama's special GOP Senate primary last month, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell warned about the perils of divisive GOP Senate candidates losing in the general election, as happened in 2010 and 2012 with nominees like Christine O'Donnell in Delaware and Richard Mourdock in Indiana. They were not able to appeal to a broader electorate in the general election, the Kentucky Republican said. "My goal as the leader of the Republican Party in the Senate is to keep us in the majority. The way you do that is not complicated. You have to nominate people who can actually win.